Something felt wrong when I finished Knives Out. Not bad, just wrong. Like I'd missed something obvious. And then Glass Onion did it again. That same uncomfortable feeling. By the time Wake Up Dead Man ended, I finally understood what I'd been missing. I've watched the Knives Out trilogy 3 times total now. And it took me that long to realize what these films are actually about. But before I understood what Johnson was doing differently, I had to understand what he was breaking away from. The detective mystery genre goes back over a century. Edgar Allan Poe in 1841, Sherlock Holmes in 1887, Agatha Christie's Poirot and Miss Marple in the 1920s. They had actual written rules, Knox's Commandments, Van Dyne's 20 Rules. These weren't suggestions, these were the law of whodunit storytelling. The reader should have access to all the clues the detective has. No secret passages revealed at the end, no evil twin that was never mentioned. Fair play. All of these stories shared common DNA, a closed circle of suspects, a brilliant detective who sees what others miss, and that final gathering where all is revealed. But here's what took me years to understand. These movies were never actually about the puzzle. They were about what the puzzle revealed about the people trapped inside it. Because by the 2000s, the detective mystery had almost disappeared from theaters. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a traditional whodunit before Knives Out? The mid-budget movie for adults had vanished. Studios wanted either $200 million tentpoles or tiny indie films. A $40 million detective mystery with a stacked cast and no IP recognition? That seemed like financial suicide. And one filmmaker saw that abandoned space and realized something everyone else had missed. After finishing The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson felt creatively exhausted. Years inside massive franchise machinery, dealing with expectations, canon debates, constant internet discourse. Instead of going bigger for his next project, he wanted to go smaller. His question was simple. What kind of movie reminds me why I loved films in the first place? The answer came from his childhood. Agatha Christie novels. Classic whodunits where everyone had motives and dialogue mattered more than spectacle.
What were the overheard words by the Nazi child, in the bathroom?
When Johnson pitched Knives Out to studios, people thought the murder mystery was musty. Nobody was making these films anymore. But Johnson had been thinking about this project since Brick in 2005. But Johnson had a strange creative process, one that would define the entire trilogy. Each Knives Out film is named after a rock song. Johnson doesn't just pick these titles because they sound cool. He said in interviews that the titles come before the stories. He hears a song, feels a specific emotional texture, and builds the entire film around that feeling. The music shapes the filmmaking, not the other way around. And there's something else. Johnson doesn't plan these as a trilogy. There's no master outline, no 5-movie arc. He makes one, sees if it works, then asks, what corner of society should Blanc investigate next? Knives Out became his attempt to revive the classic whodunit, but, and this is crucial, without nostalgia cosplay. He didn't want a period piece. He wanted a murder mystery that felt urgent and relevant to right now. The result? $311 million worldwide against a $40 million budget. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. But those numbers don't tell you why it worked. To understand that, we need to look at what Johnson actually did with the first film. The title comes from a Radiohead track, slow building paranoia, layers creating unease. And you can feel that in every frame. Most detective movies follow a simple path. Murder happens, investigation begins, detective solves it, killer revealed. Knives Out starts that way. When Harlan Thrombey dies, the setup seems standard. Rich family, mysterious death, detective arrives. But then, Johnson does something that completely changed how I watch mysteries. He shifts the emotional center away from the detective. He makes me care about Marta Cabrera more than solving the mystery. And here's the thing. I didn't even notice it happening at first. See, traditional detective movies keep the detective as the emotional core. We watch them solve the puzzle. We admire their brilliance. But we're always observers, watching someone smart figure things out. Johnson made a different choice. Marta becomes our lens into the Thrombey family. She works for a living, cares without expecting reward, has no safety net. And the movie contrasts her earned dignity with the Thrombeys' assumed entitlement. The Thrombeys say all the right things. They support immigrants, believe in fairness, claim moral superiority. But when the inheritance gets removed, those beliefs collapse instantly.
Did Harlan tell you he was going to cut you out of the will?
Yep. Up your ass, Joni.
I wasn't practicing.
Look at how they treat Marta. They all claim to care, to see her as family, but they can't even remember which country she's from, alternating between Paraguay, Ecuador, Uruguay.
My entire ownership of Blood Like Wine Publishing, I leave in its entirety to Marta Cabrera.
Harlan was the only one who actually saw her. To his children, she's invisible. She only exists as a function. There's a board game scene where Harlan asks why he can't beat Marta. She replies,
Because I'm not playing to beat you, I'm playing to build a beautiful pattern.
That's the thesis. And Johnson makes this literal. Marta physically vomits when she lies. Her body rejects dishonesty. In a world full of people who lie effortlessly, she's incapable of the fundamental skill required to navigate their world. Because we're emotionally attached to Marta, Johnson pulls off his biggest trick. Traditional detective movies follow 3 acts: murder, investigation, confession. But Knives Out does something different. It uses what's called an inverted mystery, a Columbo technique. Instead of partnering us with the detective to find truth together, Johnson breaks that partnership. By revealing early that Marta seemingly administered a fatal overdose to Harlan, the film aligns our sympathies with the killer. This creates suspense instead of curiosity. We spend most of the movie dreading that Benoit Blanc will uncover what we think we already know. Our emotion shifts from, "Who did it?" to, "Please don't let Marta get caught." And when I first watched it, I was sure I had it figured out. I was ready for the explanation scene, the wrap-up. Then Johnson pulls the donut hole twist. We think we see the whole picture, the donut, but the truth we witnessed was just the outer layer. The hole, the empty space at the center, was always there. We weren't looking at it. The vials were mislabeled. Marta gave Harlan the correct medication. Her crime never existed. The twist isn't a cheat. Johnson plays by the rules. All clues are visible, but he manipulates where we're emotionally focused. Normal detective movies follow a 3-act structure. Knives Out added a 4th act. It kept going after the confession, and that extra act changes everything. But there's something crucial about Benoit Blanc's role. In traditional detective stories, the detective enters to restore order. Someone has disrupted the peace, usually through murder, and the detective's job is to return everything to how it should be. The detective genre has always been a conservative genre. It usually suggests that the world is chaotic, but a smart man can put it back in order.
Well played, detective.
Johnson is doing something radical. He suggests the world shouldn't be put back in order. It should be changed. Blanc doesn't enter the Thrombey mansion to restore their comfortable world. He enters to dismantle it. He's not a force of restoration. He's an agent of disruption. Watch what he actually does. He knows early on that Marta is involved. The blood on her shoe, her nervous behavior. But instead of immediately confronting her, he keeps her close. Not to catch her, but to protect her from the family until the full truth clears her moral conscience. He isn't just solving a puzzle, he's curating a moral outcome. The Thrombeys had created a false order, a system where they benefited from Harlan's wealth while treating Marta as invisible. Blanc doesn't restore that system, he burns it down. At the start of the movie, Harlan holds a mug that reads, "My house, my rules, my coffee." At the end of the movie, Marta stands on the balcony holding that same mug, looking down at the Thrombey family gathered below. Johnson and cinematographer Steve Yedlin made a choice. Each Knives Out film would be its own standalone entity, with unique visual logic, color palette, and lighting philosophy. They rejected the industry standard of maintaining a franchise look. The first film has what you'd call a New England cozy aesthetic. Earthy tones, browns, beiges, deep reds, forest greens, autumnal atmosphere. The Thrombey Manor is packed with objects and artifacts. It feels lived in, old money, suffocating. Johnson uses frames within frames, doorways, arches, the circular display of knives. It suggests entrapment. Everyone's trapped by this family, this house, this money. Quick thing, if this breakdown is working for you, subscribe. I analyze films like this, and it helps me know this kind of content is worth making. And that could have been it. Johnson had revived the detective genre, made $311 million, proven the concept worked. He could have walked away. Instead, he made a choice that would define the entire trilogy. He asked, what if the next film had nothing to do with inherited wealth? What if the villain wasn't old money, but new money? Glass Onion takes its title from the Beatles, a song about peeling back layers only to discover there's nothing substantial at the center. The Beatles wrote it as a response to fans overanalyzing their lyrics, essentially saying, sometimes a glass onion is just a glass onion. That's the entire movie. If the first film asked, how does inherited privilege protect bad people? Glass Onion asked, what happens when power belongs to people who are famous for being loud, disruptive, and confidently wrong? The film moves from claustrophobic interiors to vast open vistas, and the transparent glass-domed architecture of The Onion. The visual clarity, where everything is visible and nothing is hidden in shadow, serves the theme perfectly. The mystery is not deep, it's transparent. Everything is right there if you just look. Johnson wrote this during the pandemic, and you can feel that influence everywhere. But the visual shift wasn't the only thing Johnson was experimenting with. He was about to break the structure itself. If Knives Out was an exercise in inversion, Glass Onion is an exercise in structural fugue. The film establishes a linear narrative involving Miles Braun and his guests on a Greek island. But at the film's precise midpoint, coinciding with a gunshot and a blackout, the narrative literally rewinds. The film stops, pulls back, and replays the first half from an entirely different perspective. And when that happened, I actually said out loud, "Wait, what?" Because this hard reset reveals that Benoit Blanc hasn't been a passive observer. He's been an active conspirator. This structure mirrors the film's central metaphor, the glass onion. The mystery appears complex and layered on the outside, but the center is transparent and visible from the beginning. Just as the glass onion structure is hollow, Miles Braun's genius is a fabrication. The film argues that modern power rarely belongs to the smartest people. It belongs to the loudest, most self-assured ones. Miles Braun builds his empire by taking credit for other people's ideas, creating chaos and spectacle, and surrounding himself with people who depend on him. Everyone knows he lacks depth. No one challenges him because their comfort depends on his myth. There's a moment when Benoit Blanc literally says to Miles's face,
Miles Braun is an idiot.
"Not a complex criminal mastermind, not a genius playing 4D chess, an idiot." And that's the twist. The entire complex mystery is just an idiot trying to cover his tracks in the most obvious way possible. Everyone around him works overtime to make his stupidity look like brilliance, because their livelihoods depend on it. What makes Miles dangerous isn't intelligence. It's that he has money, and a system of enablers who profit from maintaining his myth. Miles Braun isn't an exaggeration. He's a photograph. We live in the era of the glass onion CEO. Leaders who are terrified you'll realize they're just Googling the answers like the rest of us. The film makes a harsh modern point. Bad ideas survive when many people benefit from pretending they work. Miles Braun is obsessed with being seen as a Renaissance man. He installs the Mona Lisa in his private study so he can bask in its reflected glory. The ending isn't just about destroying Miles's reputation. It's about Helen, a teacher, destroying the most culturally valuable object in human history to save her sister's legacy. It proves the theme: truth is more valuable than culture. Miles wanted to be remembered in the same breath as the Mona Lisa. Helen grants his wish. He will be remembered as the man whose stupidity burned it down. It's the ultimate monkey's paw victory. Unlike the first film, exposing the truth fails to bring justice.
Congratulations on the public launch of Clear and the end of Miles Braun.
Legal systems, police, lawyers, they all protect Miles because he has money and connections. So the ending delivers a harsher conclusion. The myth must collapse publicly. Destruction of image matters more than legal victory. Sometimes the only way to get justice is to make injustice impossible to ignore. And across these first two films, a pattern was emerging. Johnson kept stripping away the things detective stories usually rely on. Certainty in film 1, brilliance in film 2. The third film would strip away something even more fundamental. After Glass Onion, Johnson felt the Knives Out concept had earned complete freedom. Each entry needed a new genre flavor, a new moral question, a new tone. The title comes from U2's Darkest Song, a prayer to God that goes unanswered. That became Father Judge's Crisis of Faith. The first film tackled inherited privilege. The second tackled performative intelligence. A third loud satire would feel repetitive, so Johnson went somewhere completely different, darker. The film follows Benoit Blanc investigating a murder tied to a corrupt priest, a missing diamond, and a faked miracle in a small church town. But here's the thing that genuinely surprised me. Blanc doesn't appear on screen for the first 40 minutes. 40 minutes without your franchise lead character, and I didn't even miss him. I was so absorbed in Father Judd Duplessis' story that I forgot this was supposed to be a Benoit Blanc mystery. When Blanc finally arrives, his presence feels less like a quirky intrusion and more like a stabilizing force against chaos. And for the first time across 3 films, we see him admit confusion. He says multiple times this is his toughest case.
Example of a perfectly impossible crime.
Johnson spent 2 films establishing Blanc as brilliantly competent, then immediately undermines that in the third. Wake Up Dead Man represents the most significant visual departure in the trilogy. Gone is the cozy autumn warmth. Gone is the sun-drenched Mediterranean clarity. Instead, gothic aesthetic, high contrast shadows, gloomy interiors. The setting is a wintry upstate New York church. The palette is grays, icy blues, deep blacks. But here's what matters. Johnson and Yedlin made the sunlight shift dynamically. The lighting within the church moves from bright illumination to sudden gloom as clouds pass. It externalizes Father Judd's internal conflict. When the sun breaks through, we see faith as genuine comfort. When clouds block it, we see the institution's capacity for harm. And all of that serves one purpose: making Judd's crisis feel real. In this film, Father Judd becomes the emotional protagonist. We see everything from his perspective, even after Blanc arrives. Johnson isn't just telling a murder mystery, he's exploring the war for the soul of faith itself. On one side, Monsignor Wicks represents weaponized doctrine, using religion to control, to punish, to maintain power. On the other, Judd struggles to maintain the servant's heart, actually helping people, actually being present for suffering. To make matters worse, Judd is forced to partner with Benoit Blanc, a man of reason and a proud atheist.
You're not a Catholic.
No, very much not, no.
Blanc doesn't mock Judd, but his presence is a constant reminder of the real world clashing with the spiritual one. Judd is trapped between the corruption of his superiors and the rationality of the detective, desperate to clear his name while maintaining his faith. And this tension builds to a single scene that made me understand what Johnson was really doing: the phone call scene. It starts with sunlight streaming in. Judd and Blanc are investigating. They found a clue. Someone ordered after-murder supplies in advance. The film is fast-paced here. Quick cuts, rapid dialogue. They call the company for information. There's an employee named Louise. They're trying to get details fast. Panic, urgency. Judd is trying to clear himself from suspicion. He's in detective mode. But while
Louise?
talking,
Will you pray for me?
Louise asks Judd to pray for her. At first, Judd says yes, dismissively, and gets back to asking for clues. But suddenly Louise stops, silence, and she speaks slowly, asks Judd to pray for her again. This time her voice is different, vulnerable, like she's about to cry. Judd asks her slowly, "What's going on?" Now Louise is crying, talking about her hospitalized mother, and Judd shifts completely. He drops the detective persona. He drops the panic. He becomes a priest again, listening to her, making her feel heard.
Sorry, Louise. You're not alone. I'm right here.
Trying to comfort her. Judd closes the door and goes to another room. Blanc is left alone. Time passes. Now it's raining outside. Dark, heavy storm. Blanc walks to the room where Judd is, and he sees Judd praying for Louise on the phone. When he looks at Judd's face, the internal struggle is gone. The empathy is clear. The peace. And that's when I saw the connection I'd been missing. The pattern. Marta could not lie without getting sick. Judd cannot abandon someone in pain without losing himself. They are different characters in different worlds, solving the same problem: how to stay human inside systems that reward indifference. The Thrombies wanted Marta invisible and functional. The church wants Judd obedient and efficient. Both systems punish people for caring too much. Johnson spent 3 films asking one question: what does it cost to stay good when the world profits from cruelty? Film 1, it costs everything but you might survive. Film 2, sometimes survival isn't enough. Sometimes you have to burn it all down. Film 3, sometimes the only victory is refusing to become what they want you to be. Johnson kept stripping away the things detective stories rely on: certainty, brilliance, legal justice, until finally, the mystery stops mattering at all. What makes Knives Out different isn't any single innovation. It's Johnson's understanding that the mystery was never about solving the puzzle. It was about discovering whether you'd stay human while trying, whether you'd see Marta as a person or a function, whether you'd expose Miles or protect your comfort, whether you'd help Louise even when it slows you down. The detective genre didn't need saving. It needed someone to remember what it was always supposed to be about: the people trapped inside it. And once you see how Johnson does it, you can't unsee it. You start wondering how many other things you're missing. If this video worked for you, there's more film analysis on the channel. I'd love to have you stick around. Thanks for watching.